Hello everyone, we are live, I hope so. Today we have a discussion panel during our Dotnetos week. So we will have an opportunity to discuss our beloved .NET ecosystem and various things related to .NET. And regarding Dotnetos week, probably there is a good point now to point out our partners without which it is always hard to organize anything. So we would like to have a big thank you for KMD and Denman Technology Center for being our sponsors, partners, and for supporting us during all week and all things that we organize during this week. We are in the middle of this week, so we had a presentation with Mauni Stevens about the GC. We had a Martin Hoppe yesterday about security, performance, and regular expressions. Today we have discussion panel, but we have also we have two presentations to present. There will be Sebastian Solnitz, I think, tomorrow, and we have a Steven Taub on Friday. We feel invited to those talks. They will be awesome as all talks during this week. So we watch us, subscribe us to have information about the future initiatives. Do not forget anything that we plan to do and anything that we deliver to you. So there is a YouTube channel with the 4.0 and you can always join, subscribe. And having all said that, probably it is now a good time to take off all the slides and just to show all the participants. So hello everyone, now it is time for you to say, to wave. We have today, maybe every one of you can introduce yourself. So I can start from myself, sorry. I'm a Konrad Kokosa, one of Dotnetos, a co-organizer of all this initiative, which is Dotnetos Week now. And that's probably all. Maybe someone else wants to introduce?
Yeah, same as Konrad, but it replaced Konrad with Szymon or Skulec. So someone here?
All right, I'll go. Yeah. So my name is Chris. I'm photographer. I'm globetrotter. Apparently, I code also from time to time. So that's why I'm here. And I'm huge fan of F# and not so huge fan of C#. So this will be fun.
That's why we invited you.
Yes, so from my side, and last but not least, Dotnetos. So also Microsoft MVP and C# fanboy. So we can talk a lot.
Hi, I'm Tomasz, and I'm generally doing .NET for years. I'm MVP in developer technologies, but like my main area of interest is web applications with like general focus on entire web stack, not only the ASP.NET. So probably I'm gonna be talking mostly about that.
Hi, I'm Jakub, and I'm a SharePoint developer. Joking. Mostly C# for the last few years, but currently I'm concentrating on consulting and I'm architecting Azure solutions instead of writing the code. So it would be really interesting to put maybe some other point of view of the performance here.
Awesome. And we are waiting for Piotr, which will just join us in a few minutes, I hope. And the key is all we are MVPs, and as far as I remember, all we are MVPs in development technologies. So we will be talking about .NET in the area of development, I hope, and everything around it. We have some discussion about that. So the very first thing that I would like to start to discuss is very open question, because we are, I believe, though, the overall perception, I hope, is that .NET is moving to open source world. So the very first question is, what's your favorite top one open source project, .NET open source project? And we can also include the runtime itself, because .NET is also open source. So in the overall .NET ecosystem or libraries, tools, maybe some programs, I don't know, what's your favorite one? And I will be the last because I started, so I would like to point anyone. So if anyone wants to start, just start talking.
Actually, it's those days. It's quite hard question. I guess majority of the popular open source projects, if you are looking for C# or mainstream development perspective, they get somehow replaced by things in framework, like the most typical stuff. I don't know, like first guess JSON.NET, right? The top downloaded NuGet package. Basically, we are moving away from it. I would say Maven. Maven is actually, sorry, not Maven. What's the name? Martin. Sorry. I actually like it very much, not because some of the contributors there are my very good colleagues, but actually I like what has been done there. The architectural approach, the usage of actually very smart usage of what PostgreSQL provides as a database to actually create something that can correspond with solutions dedicated, like for example Raven or something like this. So Martin is not like I use it a lot in many contexts, but I actually very like how it is developed, how it is architecture, how it is structured. I actually learned a lot from that project.
Awesome. I didn't use it as far as I remember, so I feel inspired to look at it now. And have you learned anything from the code itself, like not only from the practical part, but anything fancy in the library itself, something that you have learned from it?
It's more like how it was architected, how the actual capabilities of PostgreSQL has been used. Actually, I believe this is the one single source of information about various things in Postgres I have learned more than from like any book or anything else. Some specific C# code tricks, not really. Actually, from that perspective, the project is pretty clean, which is actually a very good thing. So no hacks there or anything like this. So from this perspective now, from overall architecture and the very smart usage of underlying technology, a lot.
Awesome. Okay, next one.
I would say that for me, the best open source library is probably benchmark.net. Like 4 years, we didn't have any library to do benchmarking.
That was mine.
Oh, but you wanted to be last, so I'm the winner here. At least from my perspective, it's a game changer, because in the past I was trying to do my tricks with stopwatch. Then I was trying to investigate how xunit.performance runs, etc. And this is the old time of benchmarking, when you write stopwatch and some kind of loops, then you add threads. Then another senior developer comes to you and says, but this approach of benchmarking is invalid. You should use mean or median instead of average. Then another developer comes in and says, oh, but you should do some warm-up, or your warm-up is invalid. So for me, the benchmark.net is a game changer, especially since it proves with correctness, and later on it exports the results in kind of helpful format. Like I can copy paste those results into my email and send, for example, to the business, and business sees the real value. And I can say that it's a, let's say, correct and valid benchmark, not some dummy trick that I simply wrote for myself. So for me, it is this library.
Awesome.
I can chime in. So recently, I revisited the project, and I mean that the project itself on the GitHub, not the library, because the library I use it quite frequently, but the project itself that I revisited is protobuf.net from Mark Gravel from Stack Overflow, and the reason for selecting it as one of the most important ones, or one of the top, is that it is really well designed in a way that if you want to build it, for instance, for a different framework, or you want to apply some kind of optimization techniques like aggressive inlining and provide some method options, it has it grouped in a really nice way. So for instance, if you run against 4.6.1 framework, it will apply different options to different areas of code. And it's not like the whole code is a spaghetti mess of if define and then a network, and then .NET framework version. But it has all of these components, all these flags extracted in a really nice and dense way. So yeah, I think from the overall approach to versioning to building against different frameworks, that's a really interesting project.
Awesome.
Okay. So I will be different. I don't think I have any favorite projects, open source. If I have a favorite, I would say because I'm using it. And the using ones are Kubernetes and, in this case, Identity Server. Where in Identity Server, I think this is an amazing piece of, maybe not the software as the software, because it's not really, if you look into the code, you probably could do it better. But it solves a specific business needs that you need to solve in your company or in the project that you are using it. And you maybe can't learn how to program from that specific piece of code like Identity Server, but you can learn how to structure or how to use OpenID Connect, or how you can integrate OpenID Connect in your project. And from that point of view, it's an amazing thing and piece of work. I'm really happy that it's open source and we can use it. As for the Kubernetes, I think if you will look into the code, it's really like amazing approach of a single responsible principle applied almost everywhere. So someone figured out in Kubernetes that you can build on small blocks. You're building something small, which is called pod, but then you can reuse this thing by applying extra thing that it will be replicating this pod. And the whole structure of this and how it works like in the event-driven way, it's an amazing piece of architecture that it's really cool to see. I'm not saying use it. I'm just saying it's really cool to see that you can do those kind of things in software and apply this on the cluster and host big amount of applications on cluster around the whole world. And that's from my perspective, at least.
All right. I need to say that all the projects that you guys mentioned were pretty awesome. And the funny thing is that I'll be the only one that has mentioned the project from Microsoft, and that will be ASP.NET Core in general. I think that especially the performance work that's done on a low level there is literally game changer in terms of doing doing web applications with .NET, and not really because you need this performance every day, but mostly because it's a hype builder. So it's something that can be used to sell ASP.NET Core and .NET in general to people that are not right now in the .NET space, and that's something really important for me. So that's one thing, and the other thing is the fact how actually well structured it is in terms of different layers. So the general architecture enables things like Giraffe, which is F# functional programming style wrapper on top of ASP.NET Core to exist. So you may go with classical object-oriented C# MVC way, but because it's pretty decently structured, you can go with something totally different that has been built by community, and that's always a good sign for a framework if it enables things like that. So yeah, that would be that.
Awesome. You mentioned F# based library, like you was the one to mention it. Okay, so in the meantime, Piotr Stab has joined us. So hello, Piotr. You can introduce yourself with a few words, and also we have a very first question for you. I don't know if you have heard it, so I will just recall.
Maybe you should introduce me.
Your favorite.
Okay, so my name is
Yes.
Piotrek or Peter, if you prefer. I'm Microsoft MVP in Development Technologies. And that's all about me. What can I say more? Okay, I'm anonymous developer for more than 15 years here now or something like that. So it's quite long.
Awesome. And your favorite number one open source project in .NET?
I don't have favorite number one. I have a few which helped me a lot. Some of them were mentioned already, like Identity Server. But there's one, or Dotnet. Dotnet source code also was helpful too many times. But still it was helpful. But I would like to thank you here, Krzysztof. Thank you for the Ionite. I was using it a lot in Visual Studio Code. That was probably the only reason I can learn it a bit. I'm not the F# developer, but I'm still trying. And your project is awesome. And thank you for it.
Thanks a lot for mentioning. So maybe for those of viewers that don't know what Ionite is basically the Visual Studio Code plugin that enables really rich IDE experience in Visual Studio Code for F#. It's basically in short one sentence summary. So thanks a lot.
No problem. And probably Identity Server was mentioned, Kubernetes was mentioned, Benchmark.net was mentioned. So let's say it's all.
Awesome. So maybe now it's my turn. So Benchmark.net, which was stolen by Łukasz, open sourced .NET Runtime, which was partially stolen by Piotrek. I really like the fact that the runtime is open source. It is just an awesome thing to see how maybe I don't read it on a daily basis, but also tracking all the issues, the discussions about how it is developed, all the decisions behind the development is really awesome to hear, to see. And it also includes the C# itself, like the Roslyn and the development of the C# language, which is also open sourced. Probably F# is also open source. I don't know, Krzysiek, if it is like that, but it is really, really nice to see all the decisions, discussions. And Sharplab.io, which is also open sourced. I really like this web tool for digging into very low level stuff related to how things are going underneath. So Sharplab.io is also awesome. And by the way, one encouragement for the whole participants, you can also always ask questions because we are discussing somehow between each other, but it is also super nice to have some feedback from the other side. So just join into the discussion, ask questions, you can argue with us or whatever. Any interaction will be nice to hear. Okay. So the very next question is, which is slowly moving to the future part, because we would like probably to talk about the future. So another favorite kind of question, your favorite thing, PR, change, anything that is going to be introduced in .NET 5. Because .NET 5 is going to be published, I don't know, November, like something like that. So then probably we all somehow track what will be introduced. So anything that you would like to describe, what you like the most, what you are waiting for the most, and so on.
Let me start with the crazy stuff. So I'm not, actually, I can't remember whether it's .NET 5 or is it in .NET 3 already, but Bitonic sort from Damage Boy. The crazy sorting algorithm provided by Dan Schechter and the way that it was introduced to GC only, actually, the PR for applying it for sorting arrays, I think it was killed. And the C++ version was applied for GC to speed up the sorting phase for all the objects and their addresses in for GC. So that's the top change in .NET area for me. Yeah. It's like the level crazy and above. So yeah.
Yeah. So speaking about like crazy changes, I also have a bunch of normal changes that I really like. But on the crazy level, the .tail instruction in IL has huge performance boost in .NET 5, and this is really huge for F# in general because F# is using like idiomatic F# code is using fairly a lot of like recursion and especially tail recursion. So if that will behave better in terms of performance, then yep, that's just cool. That's just really, really good change. That's on the runtime level. That's really awesome.
So I will go with the fact that actually ASP.NET is currently released together with .NET generally, so I'm going to detour there. And my personal favorite for ASP.NET Core 5 is actually all the improvements to HTTP2. ASP.NET Core technically has HTTP2, but from protocol perspective, it's not the real thing. It was working, but it's missing the crucial ingredients. And in .NET 5, we are finally getting, first of all, the first class support in .NET code, like the same treatment they did for HTTP1, so a number of performance improvement around allocations, etc. But what is most important, we are getting Hpac compression, both static and dynamic. And this is actually one of the key performance aspects of HTTP2 when it comes to the actual protocol. It greatly reduces what goes there on the line. There are some small additions also. ASP.NET Core will support ping for HTTP2, so we can configure that the application use that. There is still some critical, in my opinion, absent features, like server push, still not there, still somewhere on the roadmap. But what is happening to HTTP2 in ASP.NET Core 5 is, in my opinion, something that allows us to tell that we finally has a first-class support for HTTP2 equal to generally all the other servers when it comes to the key performance aspects. And we no longer like the poor guy on the street, which has a worse toys than the other guys. So for me, that's great. That's really important.
Okay, anything else from anyone? .NET 5.
My favorite thing about the .NET 5 is the lack of LTS. So basically, it's causing that I don't care about .NET 5 in any of my current projects because my clients required LTS on the project for the .NET. So I need to stack with 3.1. I can learn what's in .NET 5 and I've already learned about lots of performance, but I really don't care about the release.
That way.
And I'm waiting for the next one.
So in comparison, we have another approach.
Because there's absolutely no point of spending our time of any of the migration because we can't have the code on the production that's not on the LTS, and that's it. That's the rule.
Okay, from another perspective, for example, in my company, we use not LTS releases simply to adjust our APIs to match the new APIs and do the proper release of the stable version faster. Because, for example, when it was with .NET 3, in the beginning it was 3.0, so we started the migration to 3.0, but we didn't ship anything with 3.0, but our API and our libraries were ready. And when the 3.1 was released, we simply changed it one number, and we were ready.
Yes, but and in the meaning that you have a product that has a life cycle and you will be releasing a new version every so often. Yeah. But if you are creating some sort of the portal that someone paid a lot of money and it's not looking forward to do any changes in the core for the next 5-6 years, then it's absolutely no point of spending and trying even to migrate to the latest version, just to have a seamless integration with the latest one, especially that in between 5 and 7, there might be another breaking changes, and you will have a breaking changes after breaking changes.
Of course, yeah. Makes sense.
So how do you feel about the LTS lifecycle that was announced like every 2 years, new .NET version with LTS?
I personally, I don't care, but the clients care, and that means that they need to right now think about releasing something in the 2 years period of time, and that's like pushing the decision of product lifecycle. That's not the company deciding right now when he will want to release, but Microsoft is deciding where you will be able to release. And I'm not sure if this is a good way, saying that the Microsoft is the one who is telling you, look, for the next 2 years, you can't truly release your software or you change your mind. I understand Microsoft's point of view. He will not be doing everything to make everyone happy. He is choosing the way, and probably the money is where they think there is. And people who will not have the LTS will pay extra. And Microsoft knows about that. And Microsoft is happy with this.
Yeah, at the same time, I think things are not written in stone. So from my personal perspective, if I take into consideration all the effort that was put to properly construct .NET runtime repo, if we take a look at the history of the repo and all the stuff that was glued together, I can expect or assume that this policy of LTS can be revisited later on, and once it's more stable. I'm not saying it's not stable right now, but I mean when all the things are glued a bit better together, I think that this can be revisited and potentially change.
Well, actually, hopefully yeah. It will, but we will see that Microsoft likes to have to make a decision and then retreat from the decision and change them, which is good, which is trying to find a way which is working for everyone. For
yeah, actually, it already happened, right? We had like a strict LTS, non-LTS cycle for .NET Core and ASP.NET Core in particular. And at some point, ASP.NET Core guys wanted to move to .NET Core only, start supporting .NET Framework. That was a huge upset. So the decision was made that the last version of .NET Framework will be like supported indefinitely. So sometimes those decisions can be persuaded, shifted. It all depends on the context. So.
Okay. Yeah, so that's from my perspective regarding .NET, which is amazing what Microsoft is doing. It's quite amazing, but I heard that before, meaning that Microsoft is not the first one who is saying that you will be able to run everywhere everything. I hope Microsoft will deliver this promise, and looking at the things, it's working somehow. And from that perspective, .NET 5 is a nice big step that probably will need 1 or 2 years of stabilizing phase to be able to truly use the potential of .NET Framework on all of the devices.
Good, like, be serious. You are waiting for Windows Communication Foundation server.
Honestly, I need it for one of the projects, so yes.
And .NET 5 still doesn't support it, so we will have to wait. Sorry.
Alrighty, more top.NET changes. Piotr, so you started. Let's pick one and share with us.
Okay, so from my perspective, I'm afraid of, let's say, the idea of migrating all the .NET Framework stuff to the .NET 5. It still won't be possible, but a lot of people are saying we are just waiting, and when this day, okay, 11th of November, let's say it, or whatever it is, we will migrated our, let's say, ugly spaghetti code to the .NET 5. And I'm afraid of it because it will be like, it doesn't work at all. For example, Windows Communication Foundation and so on. But anyway, I'm looking still at performance improvement of the JSON parsing and so on, which is, okay, maybe it's not awesome, but it will save us a lot of CPU in, let's say, in our microservices world. So
yeah, but do you use this new serialization on the production?
Yes.
Whoa, you're brave enough. So we had
system
5 or 6 we have 5 or 6 attempts, and every time there was some kind of missing feature. For example, byte serialization behaved differently, then Boolean serialization behaved differently. Then, for example, if you send the Boolean as a string, it doesn't work with new serialization, but it works with Newtonsoft. But your clients may rely on this bug in Newtonsoft. And every time when I started implementing new JSON serialization, I simply went back to the new one, to the old one, because it's simply
we
works.
have some parts in which we still have Newtonsoft JSON, but in let's say 80%, we have the system text JSON, and it's really fast, which is cool.
And actually, almost every feature added to system text.json in .NET 5 comes with description, brings more parity with Newton's on JSON. So they are clearly
exactly.
aiming to bridge those gaps. So
maybe we can migrate all the stuff to the system text JSON after the .NET 5. I hope so.
depends what you need.
All right, Łukasz, Konrad, what about you?
I like the unification of the runtime and all the stuff going underneath, obviously, so that the repo, for example, has been joined. So we have .NET runtime and all the library, standard library in the same repo, which is very nice and a huge amount of work, and all the low-level stuff related to performance, obviously. I mean, it's paying off for everyone because we are using more and more libraries. Even the standard one libraries are just getting faster out of the box, which is awesome for everyone. And then we have some nice stuff to play with if we want to, just because we can, like pointers to functions and other stuff, new APIs from the GC, and a lot of things that we could obviously mention here. But I like overall direction, like 99% of people are just taking benefits of this stuff without even knowing about it. But then we have this edge case, then we can play with it manually. So this is the direction that I really like to see, and I'm super happy Microsoft is taking it. Obviously for the business reasons, but it is awesome.
So for me, what I really like is that now we have this simple but often Visual Studio updates. So usually the new features are pushed very, very fast. And for example, finally, there is now this gap between releasing .NET Framework and C#, for example. Like we don't need to wait until there's a new version of .NET Framework to use new features, because finally they decided that this separation is kind of limiting the developers. And finally, we had, let's say, some features that depend both on the C# and both on the .NET Core or not. But let's say that new features come more often because Visual Studio can be updated faster and .NET can be updated faster. So for example, async enable or ranges or stuff like that. Finally, it's quite easy for the .NET team to develop such features, because in the past there was always saying that, but there is a release of Visual Studio in the next year, and in the next 2 years there is a release of .NET Framework, and this kind of changes were kind of difficult. And now I see that the changes are, let's say, made easier. And maybe because of that, the .NET Framework is kind of obsolete, because changes to .NET Framework are not so very, let's say, easy to deploy. So yeah, this kind of approach where we are pushing the language with IDE and the runtime together is kind of fascinating for me, because it involves everything.
Okay, has anyone said everything? We can move to another question, next one question. If so, now it's time for more, I believe, philosophical question. So what do you think about the future of .NET in general? Like what it will bring in the next 10 years, for example, or even 2 years? How do you perceive everything happening in .NET? Will you stay in .NET the next 5 years? How do you think?
I can start. I wanted to start, and then I was like, okay. Honestly, thinking about future in years, like 10 years, I can't tell. It's like, it could be everything. Not for a second, Microsoft might decide that, crap it, we made a mistake. Let's call it Antonio bot or something, and we have a new language and everything. But from the perspective of Microsoft as someone who is delivering the platform for many years, probably for the next 10 years, the .NET will exist in some other form because they will have to support some of the things that they said and promised to support. From my perspective, .NET will try to find a niche that to get more people into writing in .NET environment. And otherwise, like Microsoft had a big problem with, I think from everything that I've seen, that lots of programmers were sitting on Mac, and they lost the how do you say, the market, and they were trying to reach to the market somehow. So they invited .NET Core, which can be run on Macintosh, Linux, and other things. So right now, the .NET is getting available for more and more people, but probably all of other players in the game will do similar things, or at least will make Microsoft life a bit harder. So I don't see writing C#, fully C# for iOS devices in some time. You can do the translation and everything, yes, but this is still not like a native application running on iOS, and probably there will be a difference between what language and what platform to choose, and there will be still a fight between those things. Microsoft will probably cover a majority of the market, with, of course, Windows and web application as the major players, or majors. I don't know how to say that. Not contributions, but the major part of the market will be in the Windows and web development. The rest is just to show you that .NET exists, get you convinced to use .NET, and once you're convinced, then there is a chance that you will be writing web application or Windows application in the future. That's from me.
I would go even further. I don't think Windows applications will matter. I think it's all about web applications, and especially Blazor. That's probably, we will discuss Blazor in soon-ish. It's showing kind of, okay, we want to have all those people that are able right now to develop Windows application, our existing developer base, to just deliver web applications in a similar manner they do it right now, because I don't think writing native applications on any target, targeting any particular operating system, has a huge future. Web applications are getting browsers are basically becoming new operating system with all that's possible right now on the browsers, and especially with WebAssembly. And I'm not a huge fan of WebAssembly, but that's clearly where the lot of effort is put into. So I believe that the web applications will be the main thing for .NET in the next couple of years.
So to summarize, I think then .NET will exist. It will be involved. There will be a performance improvement because they need to fix the improvement. So if they want to go on the web, the performance is must. If they want to win the market for the developers, they need to be fast, they need to be robust, they need to open a bit more for the community, not to be so strict still. I think in some cases, the Microsoft is still Microsoft, even it's on the GitHub. Some of the things have changed, but not all of them. Microsoft still's got his own plan and he's following its own plan. And if community behave against the plan, then see a community. We have our own decision to make, and we need to support some different parts of our business also. So not everything is for the community. So .NET will exist, but if will be a major platform player in the next few years, we will see how Microsoft will put his own cards around the web application and the performance and the community. And of course, depending what Oracle would do with the Java and everyone else, because Oracle can really break Java in the way that you will say, okay, guys, there's absolutely no other choice, PHP or C#. However, .NET. However, there is literally like in the cloud native. If you will look at the offers, we are not writing in C# there. There's like Go, Python, Perl, Rust. That's the majority of the offers around on the market currently. So Microsoft probably will try to reach there somewhere, but I'm not sure if he will reach deep enough and fast enough to change that. Even the Elixir is popular in those sort of things, and Erlang still. Closure, wow, yeah. C#, sorry guys. As for me, I can't guarantee I will be with Microsoft for the next 10 years. You never know. So depending on the client, I can just switch to the AWS or Google Cloud and start to write Java maybe. But my heart will still be with Microsoft, as this is my first language. First, even the C++ that I was creating the application was in Microsoft C++. So it's like the whole my life. So I would try to at least look at what's happening in the .NET world from time to time.
Yeah. We will be missing .NET if it will be just closed, for example. Like we are like we like it so.
From my point of view, I hope that .NET will become more open and more willing to cooperate with other parts. And by other parts, I mean, for instance, even I don't use this language, F#, that there is not only, I mean, .NET has been separated from Windows, and now it's like a standalone thing. So I'm really looking forward to, for instance, taking F# into consideration and then thinking about let's do our best to both support C# and F# at the same time. The other dimension of it is related to different architectures. For instance, recent changes in the concurrent collections in .NET were focused on ARM architecture. So that's another dimension that I would love to see, that it's just another CPU architecture that we are taking into consideration, and that we both built the framework that you can run on ARM as well as on x6486, and you can do it with both F# and C#, and that these multiple things, multiple dimensions are taken into consideration. So that's my huge hope, that this will get more and more broad in terms of taking things into consideration.
Exactly. Yeah, I personally hope it will be just Microsoft needs to fight with this opinion of being super commercial product from the bad Microsoft, which just thinks about money, and I hope they will just manage to do it before any other ecosystems will take over all the interest, because .NET is really powerful, really awesome, and I feel just people don't believe it. So we have now a lot of work to do. Microsoft has a lot of work to do to convince people that it is good, and it is good for all kind of scenarios. And also Microsoft is trying to convince people by introducing features to C#, like now we have top level methods, how it is called, statements. So eventually you can write your program with a single line of code, not to define a class, method, and namespace, which was just scary for people. Now you can write only one method and start programming. And
but still, you will have at the end, you will have still the same code. And
but it is a perception of people trying.
Of course, this is a syntactic sugar, what we call syntactic sugar, and that's it.
This is one of the reasons why Python is winning, because you can just start program and start typing, and now obviously it is underneath again syntactic sugar, and all the
entry level is even smaller, right?
All this support for Jupyter notebooks to take over some Python community, and in general community of people interested for writing scripts, machine learning. We can see some movements from Microsoft that is trying to help to broaden the .NET ecosystem. We will see how it will behave. No one knows.
One thing, guys, don't you think that we are living in a small bubble? We are all Microsoft .NET developers.
Absolutely.
Sorry, guys. Do we know about the other world, like Java developers? Because when I'm meeting my friends who are Java developers, they really don't care what's happening in the .NET world. They've got a tremendous big community that it's still alive and doing its own thing, and they are happy. And how we will try to tackle that with .NET, and meaning that
and it's not only Java, it's like Ruby, JavaScript, like whatever language you pick, those people are happy in their own bubble, and what they know about .NET is mostly the stuff from like old Microsoft. And it's really hard to fight with bad opinion. So, nowadays are those times that you tweet one wrong thing and you will it will be remembered to you, and people will point that out. And Microsoft had lots and lots and lots of those bad tweets over the years. And I mean not tweets particular, but actions that were really problematic in terms of how Microsoft treated community of developers in general, how they've treated other programming languages, how they've treated open source. So after those 20 years of making bad decisions, I'm not really sure if some new C# feature like one-line program CS file will help to fight that or anything like that. I'm not really sure if Microsoft is approaching the problem in correct way.
Like with the current open source projects from the .NET, Microsoft is like taking those and saying, look, guys, they're using us, and they're putting they're making the advert from using the open source to promote themselves, and then they're promoting themselves, and finally on the slide you don't see the open source anymore. It's Microsoft, and it's like this hit with the reality. It's still Microsoft somewhere, and they need to drop it. They really need to drop the way they are still thinking back in Seattle probably. But I understand why they're doing this and where the business is. It's really, we as the .NET, we are just a tiny bit of the market share of the whole Microsoft. The thing that they're concentrating, it's Azure, it's beautiful cloud services, and .NET is just a tool to let some people to move into the cloud. So they've created an amazing platform which is called Office, and it's like you've got everything. You don't need to get out from it. You don't even need to write in C# anymore to write in the plugin for the Office. You're writing them in JavaScript, and you're hosting them on the Nodes server, and you have an extension on offline and online application in the world in Office application. So yeah, we might think we are really important, but probably we are not.
Yeah, we are not, obviously. So the thing is whether Microsoft will try to gather some, at least stay to be visible. Like if we will not try to do that, other ecosystem will take over the interest of developers. So it is only the matter of that. If they will just stay and be happy with what they have, probably people will just go away to other languages. So it's a lot of work for them. We don't know how it will end, but we know that we probably can end this question and move to another one, which will be about C#9, just to close the whole thing, because it was philosophical question about the .NET in general, but we have C#9 in the 2 months to be published, so maybe we have any opinions about C#9. Obviously, Chris is not happy with C#9 because he is not happy with C# at all. But you can describe
exactly
what you dislike the most in C#9. Other guys can say a few words. Maybe you have any opinions about C#9.
No, actually,
at the C#9.
Not really. So I will talk about another language another version that's coming with .NET 5, because together with .NET 5 and C#9 release, we also have F#5 release incoming, so next major version of the language, and there is a bunch of stuff there, but maybe I will do that a bit later. Like let's focus on the C# for start, and then
let's move on. You just started, Chris.
Okay.
You want to listen all the good parts and then invalidate them, saying that F#5 is better.
Exactly. Okay, no, so we can go with F#5, and there's one major focus on F#5, which is improvements to interactive style of programming, to data analytical kind of programming. There is like a lot of, it seems that decision was made for F#5 to target a bit more of current Python users with their like machine learning, data science stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff which are kind of like quality of life improvements, for example, like enhanced slicing on the arrays and things like that. But basically, for every feature that has been released in this bunch of quality of lives, you can see, oh, this feature already existed in Python. And we take that to make the Python developers, potential Python developers coming to F# feeling like, oh, they have the same set of features. For example, for slicing, it is like, oh, you can use reverse indexes. So like like if you do like -7 element coming from the end, so like slicing also from the end, doing stuff like that, or improved slicing for 3D and 4D arrays, which is also important in some data analytical workflows. So that's one thing. The another really huge thing from like interactive programming, so maybe not everyone know, but F# is not only compiled language, but it's also scriptable language. You can write scripts, and there is REPL, F# interactive, which is basically a program where you can type F# code and it will be automatically executed when you press enter. So the huge issue with that so far was that if you wanted to use an external dependency and a DLL, you had to do, there is this #r syntax, which basically enables you to reference some external DLL. But you had to, previously you had to do path to the DLL, which was really annoying because it was packages, newtons of the JSON /version/lib/ blah blah, whatever it's the path. It was even worse. It got even worse with .NET Core, because nowadays with .NET Core, the packages are downloaded to the global like place in like C or like user on Mac. So what they've added to F#5 is #r NuGet package. So you can do #r NuGet newtons of the JSON, or Asp.NET Core or whatever is the package, any package from NuGet, and it will automatically download this package, and it will automatically resolve correct paths to the DLLs, which is really, really huge because it enables scripting be a way better than it used to be. The handling of the paths DSL, that was huge mess. And of course, like Fsharp created some tools to work around this mess, but the fact that nowadays it will be just as simple as one #r, any package you want to do, and then you can just open the namespaces and start coding. This is really, really awesome for any kind of interactive programming. And also, there's a whole bunch of different like quality of life that's really not so important. But there has been also a lot of work on the tooling, also in context of the like interactive and data analytical programming. So a lot of resources were put into the Jupyter Notebook integration, and a lot of resources were put into Visual Studio Code Notebook, the .NET interactive stuff that they are building, and it's working really, really amazingly well. So yep, that's pretty awesome. So you know this meme about how the F# is for maths and science, that was not really always the case in the past, even though it was kind of like meme created by Microsoft. And this really is actually putting F# a bit more into this direction. So obviously you can still write normal applications with F#5, and there is like a lot of really useful features for writing normal applications, but in general, if you go to the announcement, first announcement of F#5, first preview, on the top of the page, it's written, oh, we are focused on interactive and data analytical programming. And also, this is what's connected to that is also some work that some of the core F# developers are doing. So Don Syme, who is the language designer of F#, is nowadays working also on DiffSharp, which is like differential mathematical library. And differential stuff is really important for like data science and machine learning stuff. So it's clearly there is some connection between also library ecosystem that's going into F#5 release. So that would be that. Actually, I have some comments about C#. So I'm looking from time to time mostly to laugh at C#, but let's do. I really enjoy records coming to C#. So I have my issues with records. I won't pretend that they're like perfectly designed in C#, at least in my opinion. They're not really. There are some things that looks weird for me as someone who has been using record type for the last 8 years or something like that. So C# records have some issues, but just fact that they are there and the fact that there will be this possibility of just one-liner creating class in C# with like immutability and hashing and equality, and this is really huge. I mean, this is really huge because it's actually useful in like everyday programming. If I ever had to write C# code, that would be one of the things that I would miss a lot. And also, I think that this may be a like way to change maybe coding practices of C# community a bit. So one of the most frustrating things when I need to go to any C# code base is this like one class per file approach that C# community is doing. And I really hope that like you guys and other C# developers won't be doing one-liner record in its separate file. I really hope this will change, and I really hope that this will open like people's mind to the idea that you don't really necessarily need to put this like three-liner interface in separate file just because it should be in separate file, apparently, according to someone.
You know, you curse it now, and now everybody's going to do it actually exactly that.
Yeah.
So, as Chris has already stolen the best C#9 feature, probably for majority of us, I'll go quickly next because there are like no any more good features left. The second best thing in C#9 for me is it's not C#8, so there's nothing I particularly dislike about the new features. C#8 had few. In C#8, there's nothing I truly dislike. There are some things that I might need to get used to because of my age, and if suddenly namespace braces will disappear, I may feel lost for some time, but that's okay.
How old are you?
Yeah, but there is one smaller feature, actually 3 features bundled together, which are also which are actually removing some of the ceremony. It's like target type new, null coalescing, and conditional operator. So actually, we won't have to write type after new if that can be automatically figured out. That's cool. We won't be doing like some crazy casting from int to long in not in null coalescing, but in conditional operator, because the types must match exactly. We won't be doing that anymore, and we won't be doing like weird casting null to something in null coalescing because it doesn't work. So small but great.
It's not.
I can see Christoph laughing, and
I know
he
why.
should be saying things like, "Yeah, the problems of young age. Yeah, ho ho ho."
Oh yeah, I mean, but that's kind of like I could say that about basically every C# feature that has been coming in the last 3 versions. So
yeah, I mean that was just a joke. But I totally agree with you, Tomasz, about all the features and the type inferring stuff. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the everything around the syntactic sugar that Microsoft finally had, that was missing for ages and was causing a pain in the ass. And but people were using ReSharper just not to think about those things and just hit Alt, Enter, Alt, Enter, Alt, Enter, and that's it, to fix all those problems. Finally will go away, and that's cool. That's cool. I wonder what other problems it will cause with like logical patterns and the switch cases and rational patterns. Yes, that would probably cause a lot of issues for the juniors or even seniors reading the code, because you need to get used to your eyes to the patterns. Yeah. If you are not used to it, you will get stuck and you will start to think what someone had in mind doing these things. But then later on, it will just get quicker and faster to write and cleaner to read the code for everyone. As I don't care much about .NET 5, I really like the C#9. Meaning some of the features are really cool. I'm happy they introduced them. I hope I will have a chance to write some code.
I totally agree with Gutek. Like, is my top feature in the C#9, since in C#8 we have the is pattern, but it's often to check if something is null, but you also often check if something is not null. It's not possible to write is not null. You can put it into braces and then negate before, but it looks strange just to avoid old comparison. But what is also interesting is that we are going to have another accessor. Like currently we have, for example, the get and setter for the property, but with C#9 we are going to have the init accessor. And the init accessor would allow us to modify the read-only state. So for example, if you have read-only property, but you would like to use an object initializer, it's not possible because the property is read-only. But with init access, you can do it. So I think it would improve the code under the hood of many serializers that serialize something. For example, let's say closed object, like this init can help us. Unfortunately, it's another keyword to another keyword, because as you know, the properties are syntactic sugar, and now we have even more syntactic sugar over syntactic sugar. So I hope that another accessor won't be used wrongly, because now you can set that field equals to something. You can also write the property equals to something. You can assign this value in the constructor, but now also you can put this value to the init accessor. So it's another way of initializing the value. And I hope I won't see classes where we have 5 attempts to initialize variable with 5 different ways. It would be quite...
Yeah. I remember when I was learning C#2, and it was so easy. There were just getters and setters.
Yeah,
And now when I teach C#, I'm just getting lost in how you can write setter, for example, or getter with the expression body, or without, or with the only get or set, and we have init only. Yeah, this language is being complex.
If you try very hard, it's hard to tell if you are creating field or property sometimes. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Auto-generated properties. Here it's
I think that there is one thing about the whole C# world right now. I don't think that there is anyone who is using everything from the C# in the code base. You don't even know that some things you can cut or remove, because if you have a product or project that you are working for like last 2-3 years, they've already multiplied changes of the C# language, and you finally ended up with the so mixed up code that it's even hard to read. And someone's like, okay, why are you using this the C#8 feature here and not here? Because that was written when the C#7 was present, and this was when the new C#8 was coming out, and I knew about that feature, so I introduced this. But later on, I forgot about that feature because I haven't been using that for the last 2-3 months, and that's why the new code is still using the C#7 feature, but some of the parts are using C#8, and it's like.
Yeah, fortunately, with source code generators, we can generate all the C# with the newest version, so you can regenerate all the project every single time. Okay, that was a joke. Yeah.
That would be awesome, honestly. Instead of writing the product, you creating the generator for the product, and that's it. And then, yeah, I have an idea.
Then choose the drop down. Which C# do you want to generate to, and then you have it.
I would actually love this drop down for like ReSharper or Visual Studio, because those tools like constantly push you to refactor to the latest greatest, which you not necessarily want, because you maybe want to maintain like C#7 or C#8 style in a project. So I would really like to have this drop down.
Yeah, but it's not even the issue with you want to maintain the C#7 in the project. You then use a TFS or something else to build this project.
Yeah.
And not supporting the latest version of the C#. And it's like you have a ReSharper, you're doing automatic refactoring of the code just to get the latest features and everything. And then you just reverting back all of the changes because they are not compiling in the pipeline.
Right.
If you're using Azure DevOps, you've got the latest version of .NET. If you are using TFS, which is still a product that you can buy for your company and put it in your company.
But you can use custom-built agent. It's easy. You just use a Nugget package, and you have it.
No, you need to be able to install this package. Not all of the packages are available for each of the product.
Okay, that's okay.
And it's like you have a functionality in Azure DevOps that you can use, and there's a package you're installing, and everything is okay. But in TFS, it's not available. And Microsoft is saying, we will not be allowing this package to be installed on TFS. Please move to Azure DevOps.
I will not even go into the mess that C#8 made at some point, where some of the new features require runtime support. But if you try very, very hard, you can use C#8 with all the runtime. You just need to be careful not to use particular features like async enumerables, and it will work. And then somebody comes, see this particular feature, try to use async enumerables, and everything blows up. So things are not always perfect when it comes to tooling.
This is a sad statement for the end of the discussion. Everything is fine.
It's but to be serious, from the version to version, all the F# developers, which I have chance to talk with, they say, it's C# starts looking like F#. Oh, they just copy it from the F#. It's cool. So maybe
and still the issue is that, like, so let's take a look at what we've just were discussing for the last 10 minutes. So how complex a C# language has become, that for so good developers as you are, for such good C# developers as you are in this chat room, we decide, this actually is a problem, that C# is getting so many new features and so it's becoming so complex. So now imagine how feel anyone new coming to C#. And then if you go to F#, F# has way less language features than C# at the moment. This is something that was not true in like 10 years ago when was like C# free and like F# free. And nowadays, because like C# is adding so many new language features, and a lot of those language features are like syntactic sugars that you just need to learn and understand what they are doing under the hood, it's kind of like this additional set of knowledge. So do you believe that it's helping C# as a language, especially in the context of junior programmers and new people that will try C#?
I think it's a hard question because all of us here has been with .NET, with C# for a very long time. None of us has this new perspective. I had a, like, let's say, luck recently, like in the last year and a half, met a lot of freshly new developers, like straight from university. And for them, that whole baggage doesn't exist. They grab the C# in its current state, the latest, greatest, and they are happily oblivious about all the past stuff. So they are actually quite happy. If C# will continue growing like this, it might become issue for them with time. But right now they only see, oh, it's cool because it's the same syntax like this cool language and this cool language, because that's what C# is doing. It's looking at all the different places and is borrowing the missing stuff from other languages. So for juniors, it's great. For us, it creates mess. For people who maintain projects which has been there for 10 years or more, who has all this past knowledge in their heads, which is mixing. For juniors, it's actually, I mean, from what I heard from them, pretty okay.
I would say that it's still much better than with C++.
Well, but it doesn't. So
there.
being better than something pretty bad doesn't mean good. It's kind of like, it's low bar to
But
pass.
people in the secondary school are learning C++. So
yeah. But for example,
yes, I'm sure in Poland today I have a nice young man with C++ because a teacher has problems with explaining.
The question is which version of C++, because it is
it doesn't matter. The level was so, let's say, the syntax was so easy that the version of C++ wasn't a big issue.
I would agree that language comes more. Sorry, maybe last sentence, but because language comes more and more complicated, but some of the features are added only, for example, the special cases. Like C#7 was mostly about performance. Like pretty much everything that was introduced in C#7 you could do with simple row pointer, but it was dangerous and it gave you the the risk. And a lot of complexity was given to the language just because to give you a way of have high performance typed language. And now you can do it with C#. And in the past you had to use the C++ coding on the C# level, but right now you have great tooling for that. So I see like this version, for example, was kind of specialized, I think. So personally, I like that the language evolves, and for another developer, I would strongly recommend it because it's full of features that can save your ass and time.
Okay, I believe we can slowly end our discussion now because we have over 1 hour of discussion about .NET, so it is enough. We have one question on the chat which is not strictly related to the topic that we covered, and it is about async and in .NET in general. So the question was about the C# async await implementation that is causing some allocations producing state machine versus, and here is the surprise, versus Rust, which is said to have a better approach, at least different approach, to use future-based approach. Has any one of you have tried Rust and have any knowledge about it, or maybe even async implementation in Rust? As far as I know, Rust async is pretty troublesome because obviously Rust is a language of zero cost abstractions, so they take a lot of care to provide any feature with in fact at zero cost. So it is all syntactics kind of magic that allows you to write high level stuff without any cost. And async is a little bit of difference because they couldn't do that in that way, at least not totally, because for sure, there are some scenarios that you need to allocate something somewhere to remember the state. And Rust also produces state machine. I'm not a total expert regarding this when all those scenarios happen that you need to put somewhere in the end in the stack or somewhere else, like in thread local storage. There is for sure some overhead in some scenarios. So I don't feel it like it is a totally different approach, like in comparing to C# approach. Although probably C# from the very beginning was not so concerned about performance because, for example, they started to create, allocate always state machine and so on and so on. Only then we have all these improvements regarding value task, not boxing state machines and so on and so on, and all these things that are coming to .NET 5. But from my perspective, .NET 5 implementation will be pretty similar to the Rust implementation. Obviously, taking off any difference in the nomenclature, like they have traits and other stuff, but in the end, it probably will work similarly. At least we know from as far as I understand how Rust is implemented. And probably this is the only answer we can give you. Sumit more, I don't know how to spell your name. So if you feel it is not still answered, just follow us, catch us on Twitter, and we'll try to discuss it with some folks also from Rust. And that's all. So thank you for this single question. We believe the future of .NET will be awesome, or we hope that. And if you have anything to add, now it is the last minute for that. So do you have anything to add at the end?
Just thank you for the invite and for the discussion. We need to do it more often, guys.
Especially in these sad COVID times when I feel I meet you like 1 year ago or something. So the hairs are long, getting longer and longer. And in this pandemic scenario is, we are to live it somehow. So it was very nice to see you. It was very nice to have you, to listen to you, and to have all the attendees watching us. So thank you. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening, and see you somewhere. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And I'm just ending the broadcast.